Is that Nat Cole? Unforgettable. The unforgettable program of Viewpoint, appearing each Wednesday morning, 8:15 to 0900 hours, with brilliant guests from around the community, and the co-host. By the way, Mr. Co-host, you were formerly director of the Christian Homes. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was the administrator of the Christian Village.
Yes. You left a tough crowd when you moved to another crowd.
Yes.
Walking down the corridor, congregate the other day, got a little blue-white-haired lady came up and said, "I heard you on Viewpoint." And I said, "Well, I hope you enjoyed the program." "No, you talk too much." And you didn't let that nice boy Tim Searby talk at all. He wanted to talk about this beauty, Black Beauty or something. And I said, "No, I think you're referring to Beauty and the Beast." "Well," she says, "that or Snow White. Who cares? You talk too much." So we'll just follow that problem right here today. Go right ahead and get to earn your nickel, Mr. Searby.
Thank you, Mr. Gossett.
You talk about Black Beauty.
It's good to be with you. Can I correct that now? It is Beauty and the Beast at Lincoln Christian University, and it opens March 20th and runs March 20th through 23rd, 7:30 p.m. nightly, and also a matinee at 2 p.m. on Saturday the 23rd. Wonderful, wonderful cast, phenomenal orchestra, great show visually. You don't want to miss it. $15 for adults and $10 for students through college. How's that?
I figure I earned my $7.50 to get 50% off. Taking all that abuse I took in the corridor out there. You still talk too much, Sonny.
That's right.
I haven't been called Sonny since my mother left us. No, seriously, two of them are out there. Judy and I always talked about both listeners out there. I think we got both of them covered out at the congregate building.
Yes.
By the way, on a serious note, Gene and I are very, very happy in our circumstances out there living at the Christian Village.
It's great.
I can make a lot of fun out of whoever I want to, but because I hide behind the airways. By the way, I have to make an important announcement, and a serious announcement. Now, no, this foolishness. Friday in Pana, that's a long way down there. The 8A volleyball matchup between Hart M and West Lincoln Broadwell. The first match begins at 7 p.m. And I believe Mrs. Fruge has a daughter on her volleyball team. By the way, that's just not a spectator sport. That's a fun sport to watch.
Yes, it is.
You go over to Lincoln College. I've watched our kids on that campus there. They're athletes. This is not just out there having a little fun on Saturday morning. So good luck to our folks down there. Pana's a long way to go for
It is. It's over an hour. Yeah.
Anyway, we're here for a serious reason.
We are.
And I'm going to let you make the introduction, and then we're going to get serious about this. And you go ahead and talk all you want, Sonny.
I'll do that, Grandpa.
Now that's qualified.
We are delighted to have two wonderful guests today, and they're here to talk about a very important program, the Safe Passages Initiative. And our guests today are Officer Christy Fruge and Toni Reifsteck. And we really appreciate you coming today. We know this is a very important program, and we appreciate you being here. My understanding is that there's going to be a fundraiser coming up.
Yes.
And we want to make sure we talk about that today, too. So can we talk about that and get that right out in front?
Well, yes, go right ahead, Mrs. Reifsteck.
Share those details with us so we can get that up front and not forget it.
Okay, this Sunday evening, on Sunday the 17th, which happens to be St. Pat's Day, it's not corned beef and cabbage, but it's Culver's, and it will be for the Safe Passage program. St. John's will get 10%, St. John's United Church will get 10% of any drive-through or walk-in or dine-in meal from 5 to 8 p.m. In the beginning, we started this back in February of 17 for the Narcan kits They are now a part of the city budget, so we've gone to the Safe Passage where our funds go. So come on out and have a good meal and support a very, very, very important program.
Yeah, I want to ask Mrs. Fruge a question in just a minute, but before I do, I want to just make this is a commercial comment, that's okay, I'll pay for it, Jim. Culvers have always stepped up, among other places in our community, restaurants and eating places that have stepped up and periodically and regularly have given a percentage of their sales for these promotions. So hats off to Culvers and all the rest of them who do that. Ms. Fruge.
Yes.
How long? This is like asking a lady her age. I'm out on very thin ice.
Yeah, watch yourself.
She can arrest you.
You got your badge? I've got my identification. You've been with our law enforcement agency how long, dear?
I'm in my 18th year.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
I remember having you up before. It can't be. That was just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Narcan.
Yes.
A very, very serious word. First and foremost, tell us what Narcan is.
So Narcan, basically, if a person overdoses on opiates, and only opiates, they can overdose on a number of things, but if they overdose on an opiate, whether it is in pill form or, like patches for fentanyl, things like that, or heroin, Narcan immediately reverses the effects of the overdose. So if somebody overdoses on another drug, say methamphetamines, cocaine, something like that, Narcan will not have an effect on that. It is specifically for opiates, and it works. It's amazing. We get called to an unresponsive person. They're not breathing. We get there and we administer the Narcan, and it's within minutes that they're up and talking just like we are.
It saved a grandson of mine.
Okay.
This opiate, not just opiates, anything under the generic word of dope is a terribly serious problem.
Yes.
In any and every community. Respects no family, respects no person. But if an addiction, whether it's booze, that's an addiction, any kind of drug, it is a very debilitating disease.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what it is. So those of us who have had our alarm bell rung, we know exactly what this is all about. And so we appreciate very much your coming and talking about, particularly when we talk about this fundraiser again. We don't want to forget that. On the street, all of our squad cars and emergency cars carry a Narcan.
Absolutely. Every officer has Narcan with them. Even officers that are basically in the office, our detectives, our administrators, every officer has Narcan. And we're generally the first ones there because we're already out and about driving, in our squad cars, patrolling our community. So that call comes out. Most of the time we beat, the paramedics, the fire department, that sort of thing. So it's very important that we have that with us because time is, critical in those situations.
And to know how to administer it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and we have to go through training.
Is absolutely essential.
Yeah, we go through training and make sure that everybody knows how to use it, make sure everybody's administering it properly. And like I said, it works. It's amazing. Yeah. And if you've never seen it, thank God. But if you have, you would be shocked to see. I mean, essentially, it's like somebody is, they're gone. They've passed away in front of you. You give them that, and within a few minutes, they're up and talking. And
so suffice it to say that any officer, whether they're administrative or on the street, they've seen this in operation and know what it will do.
Yes.
An amazing thing. Now it's not cheap.
No.
And how is this then? How is the expense on this covered?
So when the law first came about that all officers and first responders had to carry it, we were not prepared for that. The city was not prepared for that. It is expensive. It comes in a box of 2 doses, and each box, last time I checked, was $88, a little bit over $88 a box. It's not uncommon for some people who are overdosing to need more than 1 dose. So, you use that and it's instantly gone. It has to be replaced. So the church stepped up and they did some fundraisers. They helped us in providing all of our officers with not only the Narcan, but the training that we needed to administer the Narcan. It was shortly after that our city budgets came about, and now the Narcan is actually in our budget to, provide all the officers with what we need when it comes to training, having it with us at all times.
And so St. John's United Church of Christ really helped you with that beginning
Absolutely.
of the Narcan program.
And they've been great. They, after we had the Narcan put into our budget, then they kind of switched gears, and now they're helping me with the Safe Passages program and getting funding for that. So, yeah, they've been amazing help.
And that was just because of a conversation with a paramedic at Culver's. Bless her heart. But no, I
that
asked
cost extra.
him. Sorry about that.
That's about our word.
Because I asked him, and this happened shortly after Josh died, and I said, what can I do? And he says, we can't do anything, but you can, and go and talk to the health department. And that's how it all began, and they told us about the kits, how expensive they were, and that the police cars did not have, squad cars didn't have it. And that's when we got started. And
remind me
it was
again
almost
of-
2 years,
of the 2 years?
and 3 months before it got in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm really fascinated by what this Safe Passages initiative is. Can you give us a rundown on
Yeah,
that?
so
Yeah.
as part of our Logan County Heroin Task Force, we did a lot of research and figuring out what can we do to help people. We were good with how we can prevent, but what can we do with people who are already addicted? And we did a lot of research, and I started looking into what are other police departments doing. Dixon Police Department, they have a program called Safe Passages as well. So I called the chief there and spent a lot of time on the phone with him, and he basically just told me, here's what we do. We ask people in the community, you're addicted, come to the police department and we'll get you into treatment. And I said, yeah, right. Give me a list of people who are addicted to drugs that are going to voluntarily come into the police department and talk to a police officer about it.
Yeah.
And he said, no, it works. It works. You would be surprised. And like I said, I started to look more into it, and it took it was about 18 months before we really got up and going and, went live with the program. And it was, I think within like 3 weeks, we had 2 people come in, and I was shocked.
Yeah.
And so basically what we do, the police department has a policy on the program. All of the officers that are on our department have access to all the paperwork that's needed. They have somebody come into the police department who says, hey, I have an addiction, I need help. The officer sits down with that person, we fill out necessary paperwork, and we're not asking for any personal information. We're asking for information that treatment facilities need to have. We tell them we're not going to use anything against you criminally, and as a matter of fact, if you've reached that point that you're ready for help and you have any sort of drugs on you, any paraphernalia, bring it to us. We will dispose of it properly, and we'll get you into treatment. We will not charge you. So they fill out all the paperwork. We have guides, which right now it's just me and Vicki Bree. We then come in and we start calling treatment facilities, and we place these people in the facility that best fits them. And it's an amazing program, and we do so much as to even, we have a list of volunteer drivers. We call them, they come to the police department, they pick that person up, they drive them directly to the facility, walk them in. So a lot of the times when you have an addict, they don't have anything. They don't have any money. They don't have transportation. A lot of their families have given up on them, so they don't have a way to get to a treatment facility. They don't have the means, so we are that go-between. The other thing we do, the facilities a lot of times require, when the person comes in, you have to have, 2 new change of clothes, 2 new outfits. You have to have, 4 to 6 toiletry items, whether it's shampoo, toothpaste, these sort of things. And again, a lot of these people don't have any of that. So with the help of, St. John's, we were able to get some money in our budget for this. We can go pick up these items and we send it with them. So all the person has to do is just walk into the police department. We'll take it from there.
Okay. You'd like to say this is kind of almost a panacea, but it's not. It's a step.
It is a step. And I tell people frequently, the first time going to a facility may not be the only time. Especially when you're talking about opiates, it is such a hard addiction, and it's such a hard thing to get away from. And a lot of times, these people, they will go to treatment, and within a few days they leave because the addiction is so strong. We try when we're talking about the opiate addiction, we try to get these addicts into a detox center first, because detoxing on an opiate is, I don't know, but I've heard that it's the worst flu you've ever had times 100. And I've seen people, in the county jail or, out in the public who are actually coming down from opiates, and it is, you can just look at them and tell they're cold, but they're sweating profusely, they're vomiting, it's awful. And the problem with an opiate is you're going through this detox, you're extremely sick. If you take an opiate, you're instantly better. So that's why so many people go back to it. They just want to feel well, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, but feeling well to them is using, and to us it's so foreign, but to them that's what makes them feel better, and it's just a vicious circle.
Mm-hmm. So once you get them to the treatment center, then is there follow-up by our police department, or is it something that you just count on that facility to take care of?
Well, we have, I try to ask as many of the people that come in as possible to sign information release forms for me specifically, so I can kind of follow up and keep some statistics on, what's working for them, what facilities, are working, if they've checked themselves out. Because if they have checked themselves out and, I stumble across them in the community, I want to approach them. I want to ask them, hey, why did you check yourself out? Are you struggling again? Let's try this again. And that's been honestly the hardest part because of the laws that we have. It's basically, I'm calling asking for medical release information, and a lot of those facilities don't want to give it to me. So I just have to trust I've done my part in getting them there, and the facility is taking it from here. So,
in and of itself, addiction is a disease, be it booze, alcohol, nicotine, with the cigarettes. We sign on with Nat King Cole every Wednesday morning. I think what a talent he was, and he died early, very early, of cancer because he was an addictive smoker. And Johnny Carson is another name that comes to mind of the big names, so to speak. He died very early because he was an addictive smoker. And so, in my determination, it's not my termination.
Not yet.
Oh, I'm not ready yet.
watch your wording.
Would you snap the switch on that, please? My determination is that of an individual who suffers an addictive disease such as nicotine, just to use that alone, is every day that they do it, they injure themselves. And every day there will be a termination day as a result of that insidious disease called addiction.
Well, and that's the ironic thing. When we started the Safe Passages program, it was specifically geared towards people with a problem with opiates or heroin. And it was probably 3 months after we had, started allowing people to come in and we really had the program going. A gentleman came in and he said, I don't know if you can help me, but I'm at the end here. I don't know what to do. I am an alcoholic, and from the moment I wake up until I go to bed, I drink, and it's going to kill me. And I think I probably had the worst deer in the headlights look, because my thought was, this program is all about opiates, but I can't turn this person away. So I didn't, and I had to kind of go to my boss a few days later and go, hey, I bent the rules, but here's why. And I called and called and called, and I found him a facility, and we got him there that day. And then it was shortly after that I approached the chief and said, I really think that we need to make Safe Passages an addiction program, not an opiate program, but an addiction program, because I can't, if people are coming in asking me for help, and I've, made that step saying, I will help you, come ask me, I can't turn them away just because they don't have the right addiction.
Right.
So we actually did change that, and now it's addiction in general.
Okay.
Do you know, ladies and Mr. Associate, I have to include that now after getting my upbringing out there on campus. We have an addiction here. It's an addiction to our sponsors, and we're going to recognize that right now. Right back live in the studios here today. Viewpoint is the program, of course. Our associate director, because he does it more than a director in radio land, Mr. Tim Searby is with us, and our guest this morning, Mrs. Fruge and Mrs. Reifsteck. Mrs. Fruge comes from a long line of law enforcement people. Her father-in-law, Ed, was a state trooper for a long time, long enough to be retired now. So there's a great lineage there that you have. Mr. Searby, I'd like to digress just a minute, because we're going to have, contrary to what the lady at the home said, that she had a Black Beauty or something like that. Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
So let's talk about Beauty and the Beast just a little bit, because you have a group of youngsters in this, and some not so young, going to put on a great show for us. So take it from the top, as they say in showbiz.
Okay, well, it's Beauty and the Beast is just a timeless story, and it is about redemption. So it's really
ties right in.
It ties in well with us. We have a very strong cast. We've got cast members from the college as well as from the community. Some even drive from Clinton to be in the show with us.
Really?
And the orchestra is made up largely from Lamb's Orchestra. So we have a great orchestra.
Yeah.
Mike Higgins, our local guy right here in Lincoln, is building our set.
Very talented.
And Jane Ball from Charleston, Illinois, is doing the costumes. They'll be beautiful. It's a great show for everybody, for family, and for bringing anybody you want to bring. It's a great show, so we would encourage people March 20th through 23rd, 7:30 p.m. nightly, and 2 o'clock on Saturday, the 23rd.
And I already have my ticket.
Good for you. That's the right answer, Tony.
A group of 5 of us.
All right.
I was given my instructions, pick a date.
Yes.
So, the theater person in our family says, pick a date.
There you go.
Oh, that was good enough for me.
That's
I want to emphasize something. You mentioned Lambs. We are really lucky in our community to have folks who make these public appearances and programs for us out at Lincoln Community High School, which is a great venue for what they do.
Yes.
We have the choral groups and we have the orchestra group. Mrs. Casa, Julie Casa, taking care of the orchestra group, and Mr. Searby does a great job with the choral group. Dedicated people who show up time after time for rehearsal, and just give the community a whale of a bang for their buck. And their buck is donated, by the way. So
yes, and that's those concerts are April 6th and 7th. I'll kick in another $1.
I remember when that orchestra started back in the 70s.
So, but
Yes.
it's seriously, the Labs group, when Tim took it over, and by golly, he gave us a big injection of something, and all those folks just kind of stepped to the plate a little extra. And we have some very talented folks in this community.
We do.
Instrumentally and vocally. And so we appreciate what you do, Tim. And
Thank you. It's a joy.
you can slip me $5 on the way back.
All right.
Now, we have a very serious subject matter this morning. It's called addiction. 648-5510. Somebody out there might be struggling in their own mind as to what they might want to do. Certainly, we won't identify anybody. If anybody would like to call Mrs. Fruge or Mrs. Reifsteck, who's been very instrumental in supporting this program in many ways. We appreciate that, Toni. The community is the better off for your efforts.
Well, I'd like to put a plug in for the high school kids, the National Honor Society kids at LCHS.
You bet.
They come to Culver's every time we have one of these fundraisers, and they work alongside us, serving the meals, serving the guests there at Culver's. And many of them slipped up to Christy when she was with them back in December and asked questions. And when I called to see if they were interested, there's some that are going to be there because of the program.
Yeah, they came right over. I was amazed. They came right over to the table I was at and sat down, and, these high school kids, I remember in high school, I would have never, just approached someone and started asking them questions about such a serious topic. And they sat down and they were talking to me and they were telling me things that are going on at the high school, and it was enlightening for me.
You've reached somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what it's about.
And
They are
that
super
is the whole
kids.
program.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's so funny because one of them said, "Do you remember me?" And I'm like, "Oh, don't do this to me."
When did I arrest her?
I said, "Well, you're going to have to refresh my memory." "Oh, I had you in the DARE program when I was in 6th grade, and I'm a senior now." And I'm counting in my head how many years ago was that. And I said, "Well, you have to understand, I come in contact with hundreds of kids every year. So for me to remember everyone's name and every classroom you were in, it's tough." And she's like, "Well, that's okay, because I remember you,
And that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Christy, along with that, with the DARE program, do they know about these other programs that we're talking about today then?
Yeah, I was
shared with them?
I was surprised. They said, they knew about the Safe Passages program. Then one of them started talking about the drug take-back program that we have that, goes hand in hand with this. And she said that she had went to her grandparents and said, "Why don't we clean out your cabinets and take them to the police department?" And the girl said, "My grandma looked at me like I was crazy. Why would we take my old prescriptions to the police department?" And she said, "Well, they have a drop box outside, and you put it in there, and they dispose of it, and you don't have to worry about it." And I asked her, I said, "Why do you think it's important that we do that?" And she said, "Well, because so many people will go in and take those medications and use them, take them, and then that's how an addiction starts." And I wanted to hug her. I'm like, "You've got it. You've figured it out, and I've reached you."
Well, and so many older people, and I'm not going to say who qualifies for that, but you reach.
Well, why are you looking in my direction?
But you reach for a bottle in the medicine cabinet, it may be one that's 3 years old and isn't really what you thought it was, and so
That's
get rid of the
important.
old ones. So
That's
that's
very
part of our program too.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but there are so many young people that are addicted, and they go to visit aunts, uncles, grandparents, and that's one of the things that they'll do. They'll start looking through medicine cabinets, and Grandpa had a hip replacement 5 years ago, and he's still got his pain medication in there, and they'll take it. And if you don't look through your cabinets all the time, or you look and you're like, "Oh, this is just what I have in there," you don't know what you're missing. So they'll take these prescriptions, take them out of the bottle, put the bottle back, and that's what they're doing. So our drug take back program is amazing. I'm always shocked. So my husband also works for the police department, and he is our evidence guy. He handles all of our evidence, our intake, and as part of this, he handles the drug box. He empties it, and he takes it to the incinerator, burns it, and disposes of it. So he's constantly, while we're working, he'll call me and say, the drug box is overflowing. You gotta come, you gotta come help me get this. And we'll have pounds and pounds of pills that we take out of there. So he's a trooper. He does a good job, and he's, because of me and how much I talk about it, I think he's just as passionate about it as I am, in getting this problem taken care of. And we've got 3 young kids, and I would hate to think when, they're in high school or in college that something like this happens. So this is a pretty big topic in our house.
And so people really are taking advantage of that program then.
Well, it's a good problem to have, but we took some time off a couple of weeks ago, and when we got back, he went out there to empty the box, and he's the only one that has a key to it to empty it. And so when we take time off, a lot of times it does get full quick. So he had 2 big boxes just overflowing with stuff, and we of course put our gloves on and bag them up appropriately, set them off to the side. And we were just talking, when the weather breaks, he's going to go and take everything out to the incinerator and get it burnt. But I bet the next time he burns, he'll be out there for 2 days straight, just burning everything. And I keep saying, how is there any pills left in Lincoln? Yeah. But as fast as people are getting rid of them, they're being prescribed things. So it's very important for people to get rid of what they're not using. And the only thing, we don't accept any liquids.
That's what I was just going to ask, because I got that sheet I just posted, and we do not accept it.
Yeah, do not accept liquids. Our incinerator does not like liquids. No syringes. A lot of people will put eye drops that they had in there, or salves for a rash, things like this. We don't accept anything like that. Just because we can't dispose of it the way it needs to be disposed of. But everything else.
So where do they take the syringes?
Well, that's a good question. As far as I know, the health department is still accepting them. You can go online and buy. A lot of people who have diabetic issues. Right. They go online and they buy the containers, just like you see on the wall in the doctor's office, and they buy those, and when they're filled, there's actually an address on there where you can, you wrap it a certain way and you send it off. Okay. But we can't accept those. We can't burn them in the incinerator. So it's unfortunate. I have a lot of people ask me that, but as far as I know, the health department is still taking those.
648-5510. You know what occurs to me, Mr. Searby? Tim and I have a little rapport with one another because of our mutual respect and admiration. So we have a little fun, but no fun today. This is a very, very serious. This may be one of the most profound subjects that we discussed on Viewpoint in a long, long time, because the depth of this influence in our community is so serious.
It is, and it has.
We're just dancing around the fringes right now with our conversation this morning. Obviously, we can't be specific about anything, but each individual or individuals, plural, that are mentioned generally in our conversation, that's a real serious matter for that person and that person's family.
I always tell people, it's not just about the person who's addicted. It is a community problem, because it affects all of us. The people who are addicted, they can't work because their addiction has just taken over their life. If you can't work, you're not bringing any money. The thefts in our community go up. The number of people who witness the thefts, the overdoses. My daughter is, and it's crazy that it's so close to home, but because, like I said, we talk about this a lot. She was at a gas station in Hayworth, and she was there, and a guy walked in, and he kind of stumbled around, collapsed, and had overdosed. And while there, somebody came running in from outside and said, there's a lady in a car out here, she's not breathing, and his wife had overdosed as well in the car. So here, my 12-year-old daughter has witnessed 2 overdoses, so it affects so many people. So, the Lincoln Police Department is doing what they can, and we're just a small part of a huge problem. But the more help we have in the community, like I said, getting rid of prescription medications that you're not using, letting the police know if you think that there's drug activity going on somewhere. These are the big steps that we need to take as a community to take care of this problem. The police can't be everywhere, and as much as we wish we could just snap our fingers and make this go away, we can't. It's a national problem, so we're doing what we can.
It's interesting to me that you had a gentleman who alcoholic addiction and came to you, knowing that you had something to do with addiction. Probably don't know more than that, but here's where I can try to get some help.
Yeah.
So it's as important as it is regarding obituates. Any addiction can seek, anybody who's addicted can seek some way of help by coming to you. Right,
and like I said, a lot of people I think are still, they think, oh, this is some sort of setup. We're going to walk in and, we're going to be arrested. They're going to ask who my drug dealer is, things like that. We're not. That's not what the program is about. We want you to come in and just tell us, hey, I have a problem, and, that's the first step, is admitting I have a problem and I need help. And they come in, and we're basically the go-between to get them to the facility that they need to be at to start the process of, healing.
And so we can, as a community, can help support this, not only with this fundraiser. You want to remind us of the date again?
Well, that too, and then Sunday, St. John's is going to have we call it potato bar. So they're going to dress up their potatoes with anything and everything under the sun.
Okay.
But following that, Christy is also going to be a guest at that potato bar, and she's going to talk, because we think an informed community is the way to go. We've got grandparents, we have parents, we have youngsters in our church that we pray never experience this, but might be a witness to it like her daughter was.
Right.
So an awareness is what we're going to do, and one of the things is, because I see it almost every day, somebody vibing between their car and the grocery store, the car and the church, the car and their business. There's all kinds of stuff out there that's scaring us. So we are going to have this fundraiser to help this safe passage for any addiction, and that's the marvelous thing.
So if somebody wanted to come and write a check to help, can that just be made directly to your program?
Yeah,
or?
The Lincoln Police Department Safe Passages Initiative.
Okay.
And like I said, and one thing I didn't mention, another thing that we do, the funds also go towards, like I said, we have a list of drivers that drive the person to the facility.
Right. Yes.
They get a gas card to, offset the cost that they're, using their own vehicle and their time, and the money goes towards that too. Because like I said, a lot of the people that come in, they've burnt every bridge. They have no family that will help them, no friends, and they've reached their rock bottom. So it would be a shame for them to come in and say, I need help, and we say, okay, but we have no way to get you there. Yeah. So that's another place that we use the funds raised.
Okay, and didn't I understand that many times it takes you a while to get transportation for them?
Yeah.
So they give them a meal there at the police station and do that.
And the transportation is usually fairly quick, because we have a list of volunteers and they're amazing. But sometimes we'll call a treatment facility and they'll say, yes, we can get that person in today, but it's going to be 4 hours. So the last thing we want to do is tell them, okay, leave and come back in 4 hours, because the odds are they're gonna leave and they're gonna go
for more.
Yeah, they're gonna go use, and they may overdose, or they just may change their mind, not come back. So we keep them there. We keep them as, comfortable as we can. We feed them, do what we can to make them feel like they've made the right decision until we can get them to treatment.
Great.
Do you ever go home at night and say, have I done the right thing today?
Frequently.
I wonder about that. Because you're on the firing line, so to speak.
Yeah, I often tell myself I'm one person, and if I can make a difference in any way and to, help better the community that my children are going to grow up in, then I've done the right thing. So I'm not going to save everyone. I know that. And our department is not going to save everyone. We're still going to have people that are going to do what they can to get the drugs that they crave. We understand that. But if I can reach as many people as I can by getting out there and talking about the program and having people come in, or talking about the drug take back, and bring your prescriptions in so we can dispose of them properly and reach as many kids as we can with the DARE program, then I've done my best.
How many have you helped thus far? I know what it was the last time we talked. But
We've had 13 people come in and seek treatment. I've had multiple people, more than I can count, that have actually contacted me and said, I don't want to waste your resources. I have, enough of my own resources that I can get there, but can you help me with what kind of facility I need? And it's kind of like a counseling session, and I give them direct phone numbers to the treatment facilities, and they call. So those people, it's more than I can count, but the actual people that have gone in, that we have got them into a facility, gave them a ride, taken them there, is 13 at this point.
Christy Fruge and Toni Reifsteck, two outstanding ladies in our community. I'm not trying to stroke you here now, girls. You do a good job in this community. Toni and the guys have a volunteer, and anybody waves a flag up, she steps right up to lead the charge.
She does.
And we appreciate that, Toni. And Ms. Fruge, you are on the firing line in the literal sense of the word. And so we appreciate your dedication.
Thank you.
We try to close with something that might be pertinent to the subject matter of the day. And the best I can come up with right now, Metro Searby, is try to be the reason somebody smiles today. You two ladies certainly fill that goal.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Christy
Thank you.
and Toni.
thank you for the time.